This is a relative elevation model. Notice how it highlights the river in this instance. That river is the brightest spot on the map. And I'm going to show you how you can make one of these right now. To start, let me explain how this is different than a traditional elevation model, which it is derived from. So let me turn this off. Let's turn on our initial elevation model. And let's just change this to min-max. And something's not right here. Hold on. Oh, it's because I'm looking at the wrong layer here. Let's come here. Let's change this to min-max. Okay, so you see our initial elevation model. It's really, really hard to see this river. Even if I change my user-defined min and max, and I make this lower, that river pops out a little more, but we can still see this elevational gradient that comes along with the river. Whereas if we go back to our relative elevation model, and let me change this back to the initial, oops, wrong thing, make that 100, click on this over here, and make this 12. You can see that that elevational gradient is removed. And that is what we're going to do, is remove the elevational gradient so we can see the elevation of surfaces relative to the river instead of relative to sea level. All right, I'm going to remove these layers so that we can get started on this. Okay, so the first thing we'll need, let me just set this back to original, is we need to know where the river is. We need a line vector file to represent that river. As you can see, it's really hard to see exactly where this river is because it gets washed out by the minimum values at the downstream end of the river. The way we can adjust this to make it easier to see is by adjusting our maximum value here. Now, if you want to use a tool that I like, it's the value tool. It's a plugin, and it will show the value over every pixel you hover over on the raster. So I'm going to use this to go to the upstream end of my raster and find out about what this river elevation is. You can see it's about 56 meters above sea level. And so I'm going to come back to my layer styling and adjust this to be greater than 50, but less than the maximum. So let's just try 60. So if we do 60, we can start to see more clearly where that river flows because we've adjusted that gradient to exclude the high elevations. I'm going to make this go about 70 just so I can get a little better definition at the upstream end of the reach here. Okay, that should be adequate. Now, I'll point out that I have taken a couple of steps to prepare this DEM before I got to this point. I have projected it into a projected coordinate reference system where the linear unit is meters. You can use any other linear unit such as feet or centimeters. You want to make sure it's in a linear unit so that everything will line up properly as we do some distance calculations and elevation calculations here. Once you have that, you'll probably want to clip your raster to your specific area of interest so you're not performing operations on a large area that doesn't include the river you are interested in. Okay, now that I have this completed, or at least the symbology changed, I can create a vector layer to represent my river. So I'll go to vector, or I'll go to layer, create layer. I'm going to make a temporary scratch layer. You can make one and save the disk if you would like. The process will be the same. So I'll make a temporary scratch layer. I'm going to call this river. The geometry type will be a line string. And then make sure that the EPS or that your CRS matches your DEM. So I'm going to use EPSG 5070, which is the NED 83 Conus Albers. We do not need to have any fields for this, so we can just go ahead and click OK. All right, we've got this created. It's turned on editing for me, and now I'm just going to trace this river. So I'm going to click the add line feature, and we don't have to be exact. We want to follow this river channel though. And I'm going to start just inside the edge of my raster, and I'm going to left click along the reach of my stream to digitize this river. Now remember, you don't have to be exact. We just want to make sure that we're roughly following the main channel. I'm going to zoom through this and bring you back when I have it all digitized. Okay, I'm just about to finish up. Just going to digitize this final bend in the river. I'll end my line just inside my DEM, and I'll right click to finish it, and I'll save my edits and I'll stop editing. And now you can see that I've digitized the length of this river. I will note one thing before I keep going. I'm using a 10-meter DEM. This is for a larger river in the United States. It's the Willamette River in Oregon. Depending on the size of your river, you may need to adjust your DEM resolution to pick up the features you are interested in. Okay, now that we have this digitized, we need to place points along this line. So what we're going to do is we're going to place points along this line. We're going to get the elevation values at those points, and we're going to interpolate out to get an estimate of what the river elevation would be with associated pixels. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our processing toolbox. So you can open it from the toolbar here. You can also go to processing and click on toolbox here to open or close it. I'm going to search here for points along geometry. You can see that I have it here. It's in this vector geometry toolbox. So I'll open this up. I'm going to input my river. And here I specify a distance for these points to occur. You generally want to be at a distance about the channel width. You can also think about this in terms of your DEM resolution. So where I have a 10-meter resolution, it makes no sense to go less than 10 meters. In fact, I should probably go about 30 meters. That means every other pixel approximately will get a sample. My river width is a little wider than that, so I could even go a little wider if I wanted to. If your river width is narrow, say for example 2 meters, you might want to keep this on the range of 2 to 6 meters. So this is going to be dependent on your river width. I can leave the other parameters to the default values. I'm going to save this as a temporary file. You can save it to a file if you like, and I will click run. Okay, now you can see that I have these points occurring every 30 meters along my line. The next step is to get the elevation for the DEM at each of those points. To do that, I'm going to use sample raster values. And you can see it's in raster analysis, sample raster values. We'll open this. We want to calculate those from our interpolated points. So we're going to get the elevation at each one of these points. We'll choose the raster layer, which is going to be our digital elevation model, and I'm going to give this the prefix of elev for elevation, and you can save this again to a file. I'm going to save it to a temporary layer, and I'm going to click run. And you can see that's been completed. So as I open the attribute table for the samples, we'll notice we now have the elevation at each one of those points, okay, along the river. Now the next step is to take that elevation and interpolate it out to the full extent of the raster. And basically what it's going to tell us is if we interpolate this out and say, okay, we know the river elevation's here, but which pixel over here is associated with which river elevation? That's what the interpolation is going to tell us. It's going to do it just purely based on distance. So the closer a point is to different points on the river, the more likely it's going to represent those points. It's called inverse distance weighting, and it's an interpolation method that we'll use now. It's very simple to do. Okay, so there's a few things you want to do as we do this. We're going to search here in our processing toolbox for IDW. And you can see in interpolation, we have IDW interpolation. Let's open this up. We want to use the vector layer sampled. We want the interpolation attribute to be our elevation value, our elevation column or field. Once we have that set, we're going to click plus to add it into the interpolation features. We can leave the distance coefficient at 2, that's just fine. The next thing we need to set here is the extent. We want this eventually to match our DEM exactly. So I'm going to bring in the extent from a layer, and I'm going to bring it in from my DEM. Now, this next step is very important because it will change your processing time dramatically. The pixel size of my DEM is 10 meters. So I'm going to change this to 10 meters. And this will match my DEM exactly. If you are using a higher resolution DEM, like a 1 meter DEM, this interpolation is not extremely important for the final result. If you set this pixel size to the default of 0.1 meter, it's going to take forever to interpolate. If you have a 1 meter DEM and you use 1 meter, it might take a long time to interpolate. What you can do in this instance, if you like, is you can set this pixel size to be coarser than your target raster and then use warp to change the dimensions later. Or you can take the longer interpolation time and just set it equal to your raster dimensions like I have done here. I realize that might not make 100% sense to all of you. To those who it does, go ahead and give it a try. To those who that doesn't make sense to, go ahead and you can set this pixel size equal to your DEM. Just know if your DEM is much larger than mine, which is about 4,000 rows and 2,000 columns, if it's much larger, this interpolation time is going to take quite a while. Okay, so I have this set up, and now I'm going to click Run and wait for this to interpolate. This might take just a couple of minutes, and as I mentioned, the number of pixels of the output raster is really going to affect how long this interpolation takes. So I'll go ahead and pause this while the interpolation completes and bring you back when it's done. Okay, the interpolation has completed. Let's go ahead and close this. Now you'll notice here that our interpolation is it's not very exciting, right? We have higher values up here, we have lower values down here, and that's all it is. If I hover, let me bring this down here. Let's turn off our points and our river. If I get the value tool and I just compare these two, you'll notice that when we're in the river channel, the interpolated values are very similar to the river values, to the elevation values, okay? As I get away, the interpolated values and the elevation values differ. So we can see basically what we're saying is the elevation at this location is 53 meters. The elevation of the closest point on the river when we're at this location is 41 meters. And so now we can get the relative elevation. We're basically saying this point is 12 meters above the river is what we're trying to get to. And so to do that, all we need to do now is we just need to do a raster calculator subtraction. So if we go to raster calculator, here's the raster calculator, we can now take our original DEM and subtract from it the interpolated value. So I'm going to run this as an on-the-fly raster. You can change this and save it to a file if you like. I'm just going to name this REM and I'll click OK. Okay, so here's our relative elevation model now. Let's go to layer styling and make a couple of changes. Let's change this to single band pseudo color. Let's invert the color ramp and let's change our maximum value. So let's change this from 302 to 10. And there you can see we start highlighting the river. You can see we have some negative values, some areas that are lower than the river that are probably separated by some dikes or some berms. If we want to make that river the lowest point, or symbolizes the lowest point, we can come in and we can change this to 0. And now we can start to see how this river has evolved through time, where its previous channels may have been, and the areas that are higher in relation to the river. We can see side channels or tributaries coming in, and we can see riverside channels, okay? And that is just how easily you can create a relative elevation model in QGIS. I hope you found this useful. If you've liked this, check out the YouTube channel and opensourceoptions.com for more tutorials.